In the Appalachian Mountains, some stories never make the news. These hills hold secrets, people who vanish without a trace, and cases that are never solved. I'm Nate, and this is Appalachian Mysteries. Tonight, we begin with a story of 28-year-old Carrie Lee Burgett, a mother from West Liberty, Kentucky, who left home one spring night and was never seen again. It was late March of 2017 in West Liberty, Kentucky. Early spring in these mountains still brought damp days and cold nights, with highs in the 50s, lows dipping into the 30s, often leaving frost on the ground by morning. West Liberty is a small town of barely 3,000 people, the kind of place where the streets go silent after dark and everyone knows each other. Now, in a place like that, a disappearance should be impossible to ignore. But just after midnight on a Tuesday, 28-year-old Carrie stepped out of the house. She told someone she'd be back in time to get her children ready for school. Some reports say it was her boyfriend's sister, but either way, Carrie left that night and she never returned. Now, according to the family, she left with her boyfriend and possibly another man the boyfriend's sister didn't recognize. Hours passed, but there were no phone calls, no messages, no sign of where she had gone. By morning, Carrie still hadn't come back to get her kids ready for school, just like she'd promised she would. That was the first sign something was wrong. What followed only deepened suspicion. Her boyfriend never asked where she was, never checked in, and showed no concern for the fact that she hadn't returned. Later, Carrie's jewelry surfaced after he sold it. Her family managed to buy it back, but it was stolen again during a break-in at their home. Sometimes you can't win for losing. Now, Carrie stood just over 5 feet tall, weighing around 100 pounds, with striking blue eyes. Only a couple weeks before she vanished, she had dyed her hair blue. She also had several distinctive tattoos. The word Jordan on her right wrist, Leslie on her left ankle, a fox head with the initials J.G. on her left shoulder blade. She had another tattoo across her lower back. The night she disappeared, she was wearing a black shirt and blue jeans. Despite all these clear identifiers, her case received little attention outside of local reports. Officially, no foul play was ever suspected, but in a small town like West Liberty, where secrets don't stay buried long, it's hard not to believe someone knows more than they're saying. I'd be taking a closer look at that boyfriend again. I know you're thinking the same thing. If you have any information about what happened to Carrie, please contact local authorities. The number is on the screen. Or submit a tip through the Find Carrie Burgett Facebook page. Carrie's story is tragic, but she isn't the only one. Across Appalachia, there are other families asking the same questions, still waiting for answers. Our next case takes us up to Pike County, Kentucky, where another woman vanished after an argument with her boyfriend, and she hasn't been seen since. From West Liberty, we move east to Pike County, Kentucky, deep in cold country, where the roads twist through hollers and small towns cling to the hillsides. In places like this, everyone knows your name, and family ties run deep, but those ties don't always keep people safe. It was the summer of 2009 when 33-year-old Nancy Ann Lockard vanished. It was June 24th, and she was last seen at her late father's home on Nosbin Fork of Turkey Creek in Belfry, just miles from the Kentucky-West Virginia state line. For Nancy, her father's death the year before had been devastating, and her family worried about her mental state. But one thing they never questioned was her love for her two young boys. They say she would never abandon them. That morning, Nancy and her boyfriend Chris Chenard reportedly argued. Now, sometime after, Chris walked with a 6-year-old child to a neighbor's house saying Nancy was missing and he needed to use the phone. Reports don't make clear who the child was. The only thing that they later said, they never saw him actually make the call. The child never saw him. Phone records, however, show that a call was placed about an hour later, around 11 a.m. By that afternoon, Chris and a friend returned to Nancy's home. Neighbors saw them back a van up to the porch and carry out garbage bags and a rug. Not long after, that same friend suddenly had a brand new van. The old one was never seen again. So the real mystery here is why in the hell didn't the police solve this one? Because later that same day, around 1:38 in the afternoon, Nancy left one final message, a voicemail, for her sons. In it, she said simply, "Tell them Mommy loves them." After that, she was gone. Nancy was tall, about 5'11" and 130 pounds, with a fair complexion, light brown hair, and striking green eyes. She had several distinctive tattoos, a cartoon tiger on her right shoulder blade, a butterfly with the name Brooklyn above her right breast. She also had multiple piercings, her tongue, her navel, and her bottom lip. Today, Nancy would be 48 years old, but the image of her that remains, a young mother who, according to her family, would never have chosen to leave her boys behind. Despite all of these clear identifiers, Nancy's case grew cold. Searches turned up nothing, and authorities eventually said no foul play was suspected. But her family, well, they never accepted that explanation, and neither have many in Pike County. If you have any information about what happened to Nancy Ann Lockard, please contact Kentucky State Police Post 9 in Pikeville or call the State Police Hotline. Now, Nancy's disappearance is haunting enough on its own, but what makes it even more chilling is that she wasn't the only young mother to vanish in Pike County. Around the same time, another woman named Crystal Branham Hall also disappeared without a trace. 2 mothers, 2 cases, 1 county. Coincidence or part of a bigger story? Now, just months before Nancy Ann Lockard vanished from Pike County, another young mother disappeared here under equally mysterious circumstances. Her name was Crystal Gale Branham Hall, and unlike Nancy, Crystal didn't vanish from an isolated holler or a country road. She disappeared from the middle of downtown Pikeville, right inside her sister's apartment on Kentucky Avenue. On the night of March 1st, 2009, Crystal was on the phone with a friend when she suddenly said someone was at the back door. Now, those were the last words that anyone ever heard from Crystal. The next day, her purse, her jacket, and her belongings were all still inside the apartment, and that jacket matters. Because that night, Pikeville dropped down to the mid-30s. If she had planned on going anywhere, she would have wore that jacket. And Crystal didn't own a car, so whoever came to that back door that night either walked her out or she trusted them enough to go willingly. Neighbors said they never heard a noise or signs of a struggle, which makes us even more chilling and mysterious. In a row of townhomes where every sound carries, Crystal simply vanished into the night. Crystal was only 24 years young and the mother of 3 young children. Because of her struggle with addiction and depression, she had her grandmother take care of the children. But she never did abandon them, or her role as a mother. She called every single night to wish them good night and visited them several times a week. Her family says that's proof she would never leave. Weeks later, investigators found disturbing clues along Zebulon Highway. A shoe and an earring matching what Crystal had been wearing had turned up, and reports say There was blood on the shoe. Samples were taken from DNA testing, but then somehow the evidence was lost. To this day, no results have ever been released and the items are gone. Now for Crystal's family, that loss was devastating. Her grandmother, Myrtle Branham, has never stopped searching, and she said, I search and I'll keep on searching. Anytime I hear gossip about her, I take it to the police. I'm doing everything I can to find my baby. More than 15 years later, she still holds on to hope. Now, Crystal stood about 5'3", weighing around 110 pounds, with red hair and brown eyes. She had distinctive tattoos, a hard outline on her right arm, the name Willie on her lower left leg, and possibly the letter H on her other leg. None of them were colored in. She also had her ears and navel pierced. On the night she vanished, she was wearing a red hooded skirt, dark jeans with button-back pockets, leather slip-on shoes, and large hoop earrings. Authorities floated the idea that she may have walked away on her own, but her family never believed that. There have been rumors over the years. Some point to her boyfriend, others whisper about debts, and still others talk about dirty cops or even mine shafts where her remains could have been hidden. None of this has ever been proven. Officially, Crystal remains a missing person. If you have any information about what happened to Crystal Branham Hall, please contact Kentucky State Police, Post 9 in Pikeville, or call the State Police Hotline. Now, Crystal's story, just like Nancy's, leaves behind far more questions than answers. Two young mothers, both from Pike County, both gone in the same year. And sadly, they are not the only ones. Across Appalachia, there are other cases just like these. Families still waiting, still searching, still hoping for justice. Now, these are just a few of the mysteries hidden in the Appalachian hills. Stories of people who vanished, families left with nothing but questions, and cases that never got answers they deserved. If you want to hear more about these unsolved cases and forgotten stories from Appalachia, make sure to subscribe and follow along, because each week I'll dig deeper into the mysteries that most of the world has never heard of. I'm Nate, and this is Appalachian Mysteries. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.